Sorry, Ash, I didn't say, you're fine going second, aren't you? Yeah, brilliant. Well, I suspect our first speaker, well, first of all, welcome to Leeds Test Gathering. I think almost all of you have been here before. Who's not been here before? How wrong can I be? But you all know each other, you're all talking to each other. Great, that's what it's about. It's as much a gathering, an exchange of ideas, so there'll be plenty of socialising time. We'll stop for 5 minutes in the middle to recharge our drinks, and please feel free to hang around afterwards and have a chat. I won't be rushing off home. We have been known to do camp to the pub afterwards, but that's up to the people who are here. Certainly got a couple of cracking speakers this evening. Be introducing Steve Mounsey, Principal Test Analyst at Callcredit. And I've got it completely wrong here. I thought heading up a 50-strong performance test team. But if it's a 50-strong performance testing, you're doing it wrong, mate. So, no, up to 50 projects.
F5.
yeah, manual.
Okay. No, up to 50 odd projects with a small team. Yeah? Okay. Now, very enthusiastic presenter. If anybody's been following Steve on Twitter or his blog, which it is.
I haven't got a blog.
No, sorry.
I draw pictures, I don't write.
I'll swap the presenters around. I was going to say, but it's been presenting at Test Bash and things. And if anybody has seen any of his presenters or presentations from LinkedIn or anything, know that he's pretty good at some alternative means of communication and enthusing an audience. Hence the paper and pens.
Yeah.
And certainly if anybody's looked at Steve's work, they'll know what sketch notes are already. But if you haven't, this is going to be fun. Steve?
Brilliant, thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you today about sketchnoting and what I've learned from sketchnoting. So I'll take you through what sketchnote is, why to sketchnote, why you would sketchnote. Then look at some of my favourite talks, which I have as sketchnotes, and then how I've applied that in my day-to-day work. So this is my Twitter handle, Twitter name? Handle. So I'd love it if you'd take a picture of it, tweet it for me. So yeah, please have a go at it because it's a really useful technique. Okay, so this is a sketch note, and as made sort of popular or famous by a chap called Mike Road, who's written a couple of books on the subject, which are really, really good. And this is what he would say is a classical sketch note. So it's verbal and visual. There's dividers in there, different types of text. It's about making it interesting for yourself. Bullet points. I think the key is verbal and visual. And also, if you are afraid to have a go, it is very easy. And you'll see some of my early sketch notes are really, really terrible. So drawing like a child, almost, even worse, possibly. So just please have a go. And you can draw anything. This is one of the things he says. You can draw anything with these 5 basic objects, so the square, circle, triangle, line and a dot. So just be as simple as you want to be. And also I would say one of the things that I find useful is having my phone out, and so just Googling an image. If I can't think of how to draw something, I'll have my phone out and I'll just Google maybe tree icon, and it just might simplify it a little bit for me, and it'll help me draw. So yeah, why should you sketchnote? So sketchnoting is performance art. So you could go home and you could tell your partner that you've been a performance artist tonight. That sounds like a good reason. There's a prize at the end of it for somebody, maybe someone in the front row or the front rows, that I can give out. It's not drink, it's not food or anything. It's very interesting. And also, I think this is something I find really useful in terms of it helps me engage with the session. It helps me listen. It helps you translate what is happening into a visual image, and that process activates different parts of your brain and helps you sustain that memory. If you look at people that say remember a full deck of cards, one of the techniques for that is they create a story in their head. And this is a little bit for me about creating a story, turning that into visual language. So if you haven't started sketchnoting, then please, now would be great. And like I said, just feel free to get your head down and get your phone out or whatever. I won't be offended. Okay. So this was me. I sort of made it to that principal level, very bored, sat in large meetings, not getting a lot out of it. So what did I do? I started buying books, and I bought one called The Charisma Myth, and it's not that great. I only read the first sort of couple of chapters, but the key thing there was presence. So I wasn't present in those meetings, and I wasn't getting everything I could from those meetings. So I decided to address that. And one of the things I did was draw. And so if you're still not drawing, it really is not about artistic skill. It's not about how to make the best picture. It's something for you. And so you can see, I mean, look at how terrible this is. So this was a session we had in the office with a whole lot of senior managers about what is continuous integration, what is continuous delivery, and what is continuous deployment. So a few key things there is shippable, deployable in the hands of the business. Auto deploy, automatic smoke test, feature toggles. And I think this is where I've probably got this wrong in this instance. Continuous deployment isn't making something shippable and deployable. That's continuous delivery. Continuous deployment is actually doing it, putting it live. Oh, I've locked this. And then I went to a place called Manchester. I don't know if you know Manchester. It's a bit like Leeds, except they've got 2 football teams. Not very good, are they? And a chap from the BBC called Paul Rutter spoke, and he took us through what they were doing on the BBC Future team. And they messed around with the language of testing. So they had a few job titles. So they had test engineer, who was the advocate for the user. And they had a dev in test, which was very technical. A test lead, a tools and infrastructure team. So they'd seen the different values, the different pieces of value that a tester can give. They had 5 principles, always shippable. That appealed to me with the imagery there. Swarming, which is an interesting approach. A regular cadence, and visibility. Now I only got 4 of those principles, you'll notice, but I missed one off. And this was sort of when I was first starting to sketchnote. So I think one of the things I picked up from sketchnoting for a while is try and just write something very quick, small points. So instead of writing visibility, maybe I would have just written visi, and then come back to it in a couple of minutes when I had a bit of time when he was talking about something slightly less interesting. So don't be afraid to write half of things and then come back to them. That's what I would say. They messed around with some more of the language. So they were doing Agile, and so instead of having sprints, they had a challenge. Instead of doing show and tell, they had a show me. Anyone who's got children will know that one. The swarming stuff was really interesting as well. So instead of having an automated regression pack, I assume they had some sort of automated regression pack, but instead of just completely relying on that big long automated regression pack, they had a whole team risk review with product owners, devs, testers, everybody, and they stopped and swarmed. And then a whole set of device information and stuff about how they actually physically did it, the tools they used. There was also a talk that day by my old boss, Clem Pickering, about environments for continuous delivery. And I'm sure you've all heard about continuous delivery now. So environments, maybe we can just run through these, and this is something Clem did on the day. So can you put your hand up if you had a challenge with a lack of access to an environment? And keep that hand up, and then so differences between those environments. 2 hands. And then the performance of those environments. Maybe you can wave one hand. And anyway, so you get the point. Everyone, just for the internet, everyone in here was waving at me there. So there's a heck of a lot of challenges with environments. So they're often the scapegoat. They're an emotive subject. And with the increasing use of Agile and DevOps, we need to go through those environments more often. We rely on them. So there's a whole set of solutions. And one of the things we often debated was environment ownership and having an environments management team. And that's something we didn't agree with. And then a whole set of second order problems. So more the DevOps principles of walking skeletons. So the first thing you do on a project or an iteration is try and get something through to live, and then you flesh that skeleton out. Fix the pain, release more. One of Clem's great phrases was, if something's hard, do it more often. And I think Ash, sat in the front row, said, if something's hard, do it more often, but learn from it and improve on that. So don't just do something hard more often.
That sounds like something I might say.
I mean, that's the Agile principles, isn't it? Inspect and adapt and reflection. Monitoring is really interesting. That's something we talked about. Monitoring versus testing. So instead of testing, actually, could you do performance monitoring? So no specific performance tests, for example. And this imagery of the pipeline is something I really liked. And you see you're going through that pipeline, that route to live. And then I went to this place called Brighton. It's a bit like Leeds, but they've got a beach. They've got a beach. So, and this is where I discovered it has a name. Sketchnoting. What I'd been doing, because I didn't, up until this point, I really didn't realise what I'd been doing. But it had a name. Rosie Sherry, who runs Test Bash and the Software Testing Club, said to me, look, it's called Sketchnoting, you need to buy the book. And she invited me to come down there as a sort of a press pass and do some of these sketch notes. So my first day was spent on rapid software testing. So hands up if you've done rapid software testing. One, great. Hands up if you've heard of it. A few more, right, okay. So this is Michael Bolton and James Bath. And these guys are really good, and they've done a lot for testing, particularly around the definition of terms. So what is software testing? What is quality? So these guys would argue testing is evaluating a product by learning, or testing versus checking argument. And so again, to bring this back to sketchnoting, some of my influences that were around the tree, sort of all our good checking, so those automated checks through tools are rooted in good testing. What is quality? Quality is a very interesting term. We want quality software, but what does quality mean? And these guys would argue that quality isn't correctness, it isn't adherence to a spec. It's value to a person. That's quite an interesting argument. The explicit versus tacit knowledge. And again, my inference there is that it's an iceberg. We have lots and lots of tacit knowledge, and very little is explicit when we're testing. And what we need to do is use that tacit knowledge. Exploratory testing is a good way of making use of that tacit knowledge without having to make it explicit. So your ethics might be an example of some tacit knowledge. Ask yourself, is there a problem? That's interesting. That's something not even specific to testing. I do that daily. Is there really a problem? And these guys call themselves context-driven testers. So what is context? But I think look those guys up. Okay, my second day was spent going to a few workshops, and this was one given by a lady called Karen Johnson around exploratory testing. So there's a whole set of different ways to do exploratory testing. That I don't think there is one set way. There isn't a best practice, if you like, for exploratory testing. There's lots of different ways, and Karen's now trying and find out what works for you. Exploratory testing isn't just mucking around. It isn't just having a look at the product or whatever you're testing for half an hour. It's having this sort of structure to it to keep it focused. So there's a set of different ways to do that. So writing personas, looking at heuristics. The TORS analogy is a good one. Session-based testing. So this was the conference day itself, and this was a talk by a chap called Martin Heine, a really interesting talk, and I haven't captured it very well. This particular section isn't good in my opinion, and it was a talk about how he had transformed his test team, just a tester, viewed as downstream, end of the life cycle, into something that was really front and centre, and he got that team invited, and he got that team invited by changing the name. So he really should look at this one online. So he changed the name to Tech Research, and emailed HR straight away, and then emailed everybody so that they couldn't object, which is really interesting. And then suddenly they were getting involved earlier, more often. People were coming to them. Then after that, he changed the name to Test Automation and Tech Reviews. Reviews, I think that's research reviews. And then suddenly people started coming and talking to them about test automation and things like that. So I think changing the name, language is very important. So we saw this with the BBC, changing the language to change behaviours, and I think titles matter. That is a very powerful change pattern. Yes, and I think the message here is get yourself front and centre. You can do it. And as with any change, demonstrate value quickly. This was a talk by Stephen Janeway on the same day, and again a sort of an organisational change story. Similar story to Martin. He had a team that was late, seen as a silo, quality gates, firefighting, task switching, and they got rid of dev and test managers. But they didn't really get rid of them. They repurposed them and brought in more of a sort of a test coach model who helped the test community. Discussion sessions, and not only helps the test community educate, brings ideas, brings people in externally to educate and push forward testing, rather than concerned with more line management, things like that. So not only educating testers, senior people, managers, and Stephen's probably his key point there for me was quality is everyone's responsibility. So it's not the tester sat at the end in their next to their quality gate, going, "Oh no, can we put this thing live? I don't know. Have I tested enough?" It's everyone's responsibility. And this is probably what I consider to be one of my best sketch notes, and I think possibly it's structured quite well. Good use of colour there as well. So I really like this one. Again, Karen Johnson, and this was about the art of asking questions. So if James and Michael believe testing is questioning a system, learning about a system, then we need to be good at asking questions. And so this was more practical, asking questions. But so timing. So don't run up to somebody at 5 to 5 when they're about to disappear out the door and ask them this amazing long question. Who's in the room is quite an interesting one. So if your CTO's in the room, are you going to get the same answer? Tone. So I could shout at you and you're not going to give me the same answer, are you? Body language. Have the right energy. And this was quite an interesting point. So show up early and prepare and have navigational questions. So if you want something specific from a meeting, prepare for that meeting and have questions to sort of get you back in to where you want to be. And probably the thing I really like, give people tools and space to visualize. I love working through a test coverage model on a whiteboard, drawing out a system, drawing out an architecture. Post-it notes on a board in terms of planning. I think that's the sort of things that really energizes people and gets people sharing. Not everyone shares. So how can you get people to share by asking the right questions and doing all of those things? I went to this place called Newcastle. I don't know if you know, it's a bit like Leeds. They've got one football team as well. They drink a lot of Newcastle brown ale. Sorry. And so this was an agile sort of talk about a stand-up and what a stand-up should be. I think the key points for me out of this were language is important again. Risks versus worries. So we have on one of our whiteboards, we have what are you worried about, and that elicits a lot of different discussions. Rather than if you say, all right, what are we going to put in this risk register? I think, and then you start to work through those worries. What are the things that keep you up at night? Be brave and have you stand up where people will notice it. So have it in the middle of the office. It's hard to get your CTO, CFO, the people that matter. It's hard to get those people to come. Can you do it weekly for those guys? You don't need them every day. Keep it short, keep it focused. And celebrate, that's an interesting one. When you're moving that task, when you're going to the board to physically move that task, that's a chance for you to say, yeah, well done, we've done something. Okay, so Leeds, the day job. You know Leeds.
What's it like?
It's cold, I think, and dark. It's a lovely place. So this was a talk my old boss gave about understand your route to live. And so I thought, right, well, I'm just going to draw our route to live then. So I did. So we take an idea, it's given to a team. They do something with version control, they check in their code using TFS or Git or whatever you use. Do we source control our tests? How many people source control their tests? A few, yeah, a few. Do we source control our code, our config, our infrastructure? We compile, we deploy. We move into continuous integration, where we're looking for fast feedback, running those component and unit level scenarios. We scan it using SonarQube for code quality. Okay. Maybe we scan it using some security related stuff as well. We move into system and integration tests, where we've got self-service dev and test environments, enabling the teams to spin up and destroy their own environments at will, enabling them to have greater control of those environments. Where we're looking to do show and tells, exploratory, we're looking at more UI service layer at that point. And everything's okay there. What can we do in our performance lab? So that's about getting early and often feedback before we go to pre-prod, where we've got high tendency problems. Lots of people want to be in there all the time. So how can we get that early and often performance feedback? What can we do in that performance lab? Maybe it's not full scale, but what can we learn? How can we benchmark and compare? Then we move into pre-prod, which is essentially for us going live, and that's where we stop testing and we start monitoring. So passive performance testing, maybe. We're not running specific performance tests. We're not soak testing. We're not spike testing. And then we after that dress rehearsal, we put it into live and we do a smoke test, and then we start making loads of money. This is another example of visual, getting it noticed and changing the language. So you'll notice in the top left-hand corner, it's a quality strategy. So if quality is everyone's responsibility, how do we make that happen? So if we call this a test strategy, is there a chance that a developer might think, oh, that's just a tester's strategy, that's what they do? But if you make this a quality strategy, does that maybe change the behaviour slightly? Don't know. So this is a template that we put together around that quality strategy, and this is printed off in A3 and put onto boards, onto whiteboards, onto the wall. So that's about getting your testing noticed. So don't create a test strategy that is 50 pages long, no one ever reads, and sits on a shelf somewhere. Let's make it visible, get it noticed, review it regularly, and change it. We don't want to put all our eggs in one basket, so if we're getting that noticed and reviewing it regularly, I think we're going to have a better strategy there. And this is probably an extension on this. This is my initial idea for a performance route to live document. So this document, poster. So again, it's the same principles. Get it noticed. Each of these is supposed to represent how much effort we spend in each of these things. So you'll see we do a little bit. We do exploratory performance testing in integration system to try and get that fast feedback. Well, we try and do the majority in that performance lab. And that's where we're looking for trends in data. So we're running more continuous performance tests there, and we're simply looking at a graph and has this suddenly jumped up? And then if it has jumped up, you've got that fast feedback. We can roll back the build. Yeah, was it that build? Or and look to sort of work through that problem. And then pre-production, like we talked about before, that's that passive performance test, trying not to do specific performance testing. That being more a simulation of live. Can we put the same throughput that's going through live? Can we put that through pre-production? And then it simply turns into monitoring. And this is your prize. So I've got a performance testing queue here. It's a bit battered, this one. It's been through some serious engagements. This has been taken down by facilities. I hung this from the roof to try and get performance testing noticed, and it did work. People shot Nerf guns at it. So it's been through a lot. But I'm going to give this performance testing cube away to somebody who's done a sketch note. Maybe not you. Yeah, there's a brilliant one there. Thank you very much. Can I borrow it for a minute? So yeah, this is all the sort of performance testing things we were talking about on here. So transaction volume model, creating something that is realistic, understanding what actually happens in live. Early and often feedback. So this is where we're talking about those trends. Integrated. Repeatable. If you've got a performance test and it's not repeatable, and it's just simply going up and down and up and down and up and down. If you've got response times that vary, or resource utilization stats that just vary on each run, how are you going to see the change? How are you going to see the change in performance? So focus on repeatability. And so you'll notice there in that slide, there's a book at the back. You can give it back to me at the end if you don't want to. There's a book at the back there called Joy Inc., which is a book mainly about XP practices, an American firm, and this guy's obsessed with joy and how we can bring joy to his daily life. And I think one of the reasons why sketchnoting works for me is I genuinely enjoy it. So I am more present in sessions. I learn, I listen better. So I think there are other methods of taking notes, but so find something that helps you engage better and really improve your sort of daily, the daily tasks that you find mundane. Find your joy. It doesn't have to be sketchnoting, but this is something that really worked for me. And that is it. I'm just going to summarise. So yeah, presence. Sketchnoting helps me be more present in the moment, helps me remember, helps me talk about this sort of stuff. Visualising stuff, yeah, really enjoy that. On most tasks, find your joy. Language is important, so we've seen a few sort of examples of that. The BBC, Lawrence talking about the stand-up, Martin Heine changing his team's name to elicit behaviour. and the focus on continuous delivery, cycle times. There's a relentless push to bring those cycle times down, and some of the teams I'm working with at the minute have got cycle times of 30 minutes. So how do we as a testing community work with those really short cycle times? Thank you very much.
Any questions?
Because I'm a complete artistic spastic, I'll be honest with you. What were those symbols? You said if you know these symbols, you can draw almost anything with. This looks like a PlayStation controller or something like that.
Yeah, it could be a
It's like
PlayStation
a circle,
controller.
triangle, square, and something else.
Line and a dot.
There was no crop.
A line and a dot.
So
Yeah.
square, triangle.
Yeah. And I mean, you've seen how bad I was to start off with. I mean, it's
Yeah,
awful,
that's the
isn't it?
same
Really.
at the moment.
I've got that plane.
It's Thunderbird's plane, I think. I didn't realise it at the time, but yeah. So I think give it a go. It's for you. No one's going to take the mick out of you. So thank you very much for indulging me, and thanks for trying.
Steve, you've got some great resources online. Can you tell people where to find them?
Yeah. So SlideShare. This is on SlideShare. My LinkedIn profile. That's probably about it. Twitter's pretty good, although I'd probably follow Ash. He's better than me.
I think there'll be a few performance test cubes hanging
Yeah.
around too.
Yeah, the performance test cube's on SlideShare, so yeah, feel free to print it out and build it. Get your print stick out.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
As people might have noticed, I wasn't actually following my notes at the beginning of this session. I was meant to tell you where the fire exit is. Should the fire alarm go off, which I seriously hope it won't at this time, we don't take the main stairs around the lift. We have to go through the office, and there's an exit on the back. Frankie or myself will be running ahead of you. So, no, please walk sensibly. Toilets are by the lift. And thanks very much, Stephen. I will be packing coloured pencils in my bag from now on. I'm doing a lot of meetings since I joined the test people with a lot of different clients, and I'm having real problems capturing or managing to retain so much information, context switching all the time. And I think this technique, see, you're not that bad. This technique's really going to help me. Thank you. So we've got Ash coming up after the break. We're making good time, so let's take a good 15-20 minutes, see, meet and greet and chat. Thank you. Please help yourself to drinks and whatever.
Again, by all this time.
Yeah,
So
thanks very
basically,
much.
just all the way through, I wanted to do something about the sketch now.
Yeah.
Tell a story. Well, that's you.
Yeah.
But get you short and sharp, show emotion, define your terms, structure, colour, common language, flow, engagement.
Wow.
I thought that's
brilliant.
That's fine. If you just put yourself
Yeah,
back
last
in,
time.
I'm sure you won't be allowed.
I was like, no, this time I'm going to do it.
Thank you very much. Will you tweet that at me and then I can retweet it? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks very much. I know you've had to sit through it every time.
No, it's alright.
I get bored of myself. There's a positive line.
Yeah, well, so we got some numbers.
There's not very many people here, is there? No.
So when I spoke to Julian,
Do you need anything? Can I get you anything before you kick off? A better intro, maybe?
no, just say what you're going to say, it's fine.
Right.
I've had all kinds of stuff. All of it good.
I might need to pop to them.
Oh God, yeah.
Sensitive.
Yeah, we're on. Anything we say is live on the internet.
Oh, right, okay.
Hi, Mum. Hiya.
Hello. Lots of people have said really nice things about me.
Yeah.
Do you have an attempt on it? There is one there. Yeah, I used to start in the middle, have it that way and go like that. Now I probably start at the top of the yeah, I don't know. Some people really that's what that probably is. It's not that easy. It jumps around. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's know where to start. One of the things he said in the book is that research is before you go. So he says, write a header on there, variation header, and then sort of look at what's been, just maybe watch a previous talk and learn how they connect to it a little bit.
Don't put together on teletype, did you? He draws a little bit while he's there, but then goes home and draws it later. And draws it up, if you like, in a more of an order. Some books, Ash?
Yeah, if we could, just make sure I can hit it, because I do like to kind of walk around a bit.
Have you seen the new Sky Technology offices?
No, I haven't. What down at they sent back.
Stoke.
Yeah. Still on. Still on.
I didn't know it was
No, it's still is. Perfect. Python for data analysis. That's the best use that I've seen.
I've been doing the Microsoft course on Azure, and it's
Right,
two
okay.
streams, it's R and Python, and it's fun doing both streams simultaneously.
Right.
Quite different approaches.
On the board and then actually start discussing and put things next to them. Like, I'm worried about this, so we're going to talk to this person, or we're going to. So don't just put it in a good risk review on your source control, just because that's what people. Perfect. Let's have a beer.
I was trying to make one, but we're rubbish in social media stuff now. So we don't find the developable. I mean, it's quite right because we're technology. You can't get by that fixing. I like the idea of making material things, gizmos and mascots and representative objects that you can get passed around and thrown around the office. So a bit about naming and getting yourself out there, getting noticed because they're beautiful.
Someone who reviewed them said that they were beautiful slides. Apparently so, yeah. I was like, ooh.
Actually, I might just continue that. It's alright, it's like a little bit very close to Christmas. Standards at the moment just working for purely Java contractors as usual for London. But yeah, I think it's going to start really cool at the beginning of the year. It's going to start getting busier, but I'm kind of to the point where every week. And I was just flat out, I was just active. So you see how was gonna say contract you make experience and like absorb and the benefits you bring to the project will make sense. My theory is that
What sort of age do you want?
I'm sure it's 4.
all of those.
Everyone, if you need to recharge your drink, you like to do so and take seats. Get where you pay for. Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Ash Winter, who I've been following on Twitter for a while. I know all about his running. I actually discovered you while trying to stalk your brother.
I'd like to discover that.
Before I joined Test People, to find out what was going on.
Oh, right, I see.
But that led me to your blog.
All right.
Which is full of really great, quite deep thinking, testing stuff.
Sometimes.
So I have high hopes for, and I assume we'll move on from the typography.
Yeah. Right,
Okay.
well, thank you very much, Ben. Hello, everybody. Is everybody well? Lots of happy testers in Leeds and beyond, of course. It's a great place to test at the moment, I think. Leeds, loads going on. Loads of interesting tech projects. Really bursting out at the moment. So it's quite an exciting scene. I'm enjoying it. So, a gracious instruction from Bernard. So I won't go too far. Anybody who's worked for the test people probably knows who I am, right? Or anybody who's probably worked at William Hill in various guises probably knows who I am, or Callcredit. So I'm quite an avid tweeter. So I tweet at Northern Tester. So it's a great place to discuss everything testing wise and get challenged and really put your opinion out there, and then like I say, get that challenge on it, get that little bit of pushback which helps you clarify your thinking a little bit. And then I have a blog as well, testingsbelieving.blogspot.co.uk. So that's been going for probably been blogging for about 3 years now, so it's relatively elderly. So that's just my brain spewing out onto pages. Most of it doesn't make it onto the internet because it shouldn't, because it's libelous or commercially not viable. But the stuff that I feel like I can publish, I do. So golden rule of blogging: write a blog, don't publish it straight away. Wait for a day. Yeah, trust me. Can I hit you from here? Yes. Go. So, this talk has been brewing for a little while. So, I've called it Testing's Mobile Non-Apocalypse because I think in a lot of the testing world, the view of mobile is that it's this massive, insurmountable challenge that we're going to struggle to face as a craft. But I don't believe that. I believe it's absolutely the best thing to happen to testing for an awful long time. And I also believe that it's something to celebrate as well, because it helps us to celebrate testing too, because it gets at the very nub of what testing is all about, and that's kind of what I'm going to go on to. But let's start with a little quiz, because I had an experience when I went and talked about testing in a mobile context, and there was no one else in the room who did it, so it was like some crowd. So, how many of you own a mobile? Good. Welcome to the human race. So are testing on mobile right now in their role? Excellent. Excellent. I like it. Right, this is better. I have tested on mobile before in a previous role. So work in a mobile first organisation. So basically where your products are built for mobile, primarily. Tell me how you
Well,
yeah.
They're designed to work on mobile as well as web.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you have your primary audience, basically, the people that you're aiming at are probably mobile users. Okay, and finally, back one. Who knows what ADB stands for? Tony, you know I'm going to think of you. What does it stand for? Yay! There you go. So, this is probably my most knowledgeable audience on testing in a mobile context. I'm really pleased. So, let me tell you a little story. So, I put stupid pictures on everything, just to distract everyone. Name the film?
Dodgeball.
Hey! So, in February-ish, I went to work for a company called Fans. So, you know, we mentioned mobile first organisations. So they truly were a mobile first organisation. So we're building a back end and an Android and iOS app. No desktop app at the time. So it's a truly mobile first organisation. So I personally wanted to get into the mobile development space. So I believe that we're all going there. Whether we like it or not, it's going to happen. Eventually, this is the space that testing is going to occupy, at least partially in most roles. So I think it's like, for me, it's like get into it before it gets into you. So when I went there, I had a little sort of mobile experience in that kind of world, but quite a lot of testing experience. So I was really keen to really get to the nuts and bolts of what testing in a mobile context was all about. But then I realised something. I thought, well, hang on, is this mobile testing, as I hear it described quite a lot, or is it just testing, the same as it always is? Is it the same principles, the same things that you should consider? It's just a different context. So I kind of pondered on this a little bit more. And then I kind of looked around at what was happening in the industry, and looked around at kind of what was going on, and the types of testing, the types of thought about testing in a mobile context. And I realised, well, there was panic kind of everywhere, really. It's like, how are we going to cover all this stuff, and how are we going to understand all this new technology? And there's a fundamental reason for that. It's because, as usual, testing was behind the curve. Yeah. So basically, all these cool new apps and devices were all coming out, and testing was somewhere, behind the rest of the software development world. So we were already playing catch up, something that was moving at like 1,000,000 miles an hour. So essentially, that was the core of the problem. So what was the reaction to this kind of this knowledge gap that the testing world had about mobile? So we've got the usual suspects. So what happens when there's a new technology coming out? So if you look at, say, the Internet of Things at the moment, so basically you get a lot of early experts who turn around and say, I know everything about this already. Yeah, I can help you out. This is the approach you need to take. And a similar thing happened with mobile as well. Dodgy tools. So proprietary tool vendors saying, oh, hey, we've got these 2,000 devices in the cloud, and they'll revolutionise the way that you test your mobile app. Whereas in reality, they just slow you down massively and don't replicate the conditions of actually having a device in your hand. And then body shopping. So it's like, oh my god, there's all these devices to test, so let's just get 200 people to poke at the user interface, which is a fairly standard reaction in quite a lot of the testing community. I'll come on to poking at the UI soon. But essentially, the usual suspects came out. So, but this is kind of the nub of what I want to talk about. So, despite that reaction, which is the perpetual reaction, we'll probably get it with the Internet of Things as well. Suddenly, testing will be like, oh my god, we need to test all this stuff. Literally all this stuff, all the stuff. But, so basically, it's a massive opportunity for testing to show what it can really do, and to show the what's at the heart of the craft as well. So for me, it's testing in a mobile context. Mobile testing doesn't exist. So basically, it's testing, but with a particular focus, and the principles behind, which I'm going to, persist throughout all the different contexts. It just depends which ones you wish to apply and which ones apply best to what you're doing. So, what's true of testing shines through the mobile paradigm. So, I've got a set of things which I hold to be true, which we'll go through. But first, the question, and this is a question that I ask myself quite a lot. So, what are your testing axioms? So, what are the things that you hold to be true about testing? So, when I went to fans and changed kind of the way that I was, the technologies I was using, and at the time I thought how I would be testing, I kind of asked myself, what are the things that I hold to be true about testing? And I think it's a really effective question. You know, throughout your career, when you go into different organisations and work with different technologies, ask yourself this question: what do I hold to be true about testing? So, it turns out I hold quite a few things to be true. Apart from that. So, testing is a fundamentally human activity. So, done by humans, for humans, to generate information to be consumed by humans so humans can make decisions. So, testing, fundamentally human. And funnily enough, everything to do with mobile development is fundamentally human as well. Because what is mobile development all about? It's about meeting people's needs and wants. So both fundamentally human endeavours. So when I really looked, it was like, what's the bridge between these two things? It's communication. What's the primary point of a mobile device? It's usually communication, right? And what is testing at its root? It's communication of information. Sounds pretty similar to me. So, that's number one. And number two is the Oracle problem. Okay, so can anybody tell me what the Oracle problem is?
A good enough text is indistinguishable from the application.
Interesting. So who knows who Ken Kaner is? Yeah? Good. So, basically, the Oracle problem is that, excuse me, is that this is starting to annoy me. There we go. Is that all sources of information are fallible. Yeah? So you pick up a system and someone says, can you test this bit of it? Yeah? So what do you do as a tester? You try and find out stuff about it, right? So there might be documents, there might be humans who know about it, like people. I'll take it up a level, down a level. So there's all these different sources, but none of them give you the thing that you need, which is the one. I wrote a blog on the single source of truth. I don't believe in it. The thing that you need, as in the information about the system, yeah, that you can trust to say, I've run this test, yeah, and it did this thing, and that's what it's supposed to do, yeah, because you don't absolutely know that. You can know it to a degree, but you don't absolutely know that. So imagine that problem, and then apply the size and scope of mobile development and the consumption of mobile apps and services to that problem. Is there any one source of information you could even conceive which would cover that? So imagine you're testing, I don't know, the Facebook app, yeah? And you said, where's my Oracle for the Facebook app? It's like, well, it doesn't exist. It can't exist. It's like incomprehensible. So, and that applies all the way down into the very, very core of testing. Yeah? So, whether it be a single tiny feature or the Facebook app, there is no one place you can go to that will give you all the information you need to know to say, right, this thing gives me this result, and that is absolutely correct. So, the Oracle problem still persists. And then, complete testing is impossible. So do any of you guys, when you talk about testing, do you use the words complete or full, or any of those sort of qualifiers? Do you find yourself using them sometimes? It happens, right? Yeah, you say to a stakeholder, I've done a full regression test on this thing. So what does the stakeholder hear?
tested everything.
Tested absolutely everything, and that nothing can go wrong.
Yeah, but are we not taught to acknowledge as testers that we can't cover everything in the absolute universe?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So when we say it's full within a context. There's still bits
I like
outside
you. So, but mobile gives us it gives us the greatest example of how that could never be true. So, imagine you're testing an Android app. Yeah. So, you have this phenomenon called device fragmentation. So, Android, open source. You can install it on anything. You can use it for anything. It's used for all sorts. Phones, home entertainment systems, stuff to control central heating. It's used for absolutely everything. Right. So, there's over 20,000 unique pieces of hardware. That's just phones as well. Yeah. So, if someone says, "Can you test this app?" In the Android world, and it's like, okay then, but we have these 20,000 unique pieces of hardware to test, and then you can go a level deeper. So you say, well, say if you take a Samsung Note something or other, which Samsung do loads of gnarly stuff to Android to make it work on their devices, and then you add in some of the carriers do stuff to Android as well. So basically, in terms of complete testing, you don't stand a chance. So it's a fantastic example to take into any discussion with a stakeholder to say, look, this is the scale of what you're asking for. So it is a fantastic example.
Can you take a purchase order?
You take a purchase order for several hundred million. That's just for the devices. And then the time would be, all time, every human for the rest of time to test all the combinations, and you still won't test it all because time will move on, and nobody will want it. So, for number 4, test cases do not equal testing. So, again, as testers, we might, generate a list of test cases to run against a particular application or a particular feature. Yeah? But do they necessarily mean that your testing will be effective? So I would argue not. Too far away? So it's like, frame it in, can you create a list which covers the inherent variety of the mobile world? Yeah, all random things that happen out there. You can create some lists. We can do that. Yeah. But essentially, mobile gives you really backs up the thought of testing being exploratory at its very, very heart. Yeah. So the best way to test mobile, or a great way, is to get on the train with a 3G connection, go through some tunnels, switch some masts, and use the thing. Yeah, because that's what's actually going to happen out there. So, you could spend 2 weeks writing test cases for that, but maybe that might not be the greatest idea. And number 5, testing is a performance. So, testing is a thing that you do, right? Yeah, you can get ready for it. Yeah, you need to do some of that. You need to do some thinking around it, but it's something you do. It's something that you perform. That is again, it's kind of at the absolute critical nub of it. And using your device is a constant performance, right? I'm weird, I might watch people using their devices. And it's constant, it's never ending. And we all know it is, because there's always all kinds of people, always looking at their devices and doing stuff with them and opening apps and closing them and going to consume something else, trying to get on the internet and not having a signal. Constant performance. So if you don't test in a sympathetic way to that constant performance, then are you really, really testing your app? I would argue not. And again, so is testing on it. I was struggling for pictures at this point. It took me a while to find that one. I was like, I'll have it, but in the absence of creating my own. Right, so poking at user interfaces. So, again, testers for many, many years, we've been poking at user interface, right? And you do need to do some poking at user interface. You know, I'm not saying that you don't have to do any, but stop it, everyone. Especially in a mobile context. Yeah? Because there is so much inherent variety and so much fragmentation of the market. Well, iOS is not too bad, but still, iOS is like, you know, even though Apple like absolutely, you know, like unstoppable morons get you to upgrade, there's still a few devices now, and a few different OSs knocking around. So, you know, it is like there's even fragmentation there now too. You know, you take tablets into account as well. So, back. Every so often. Okay. So, one of the fundamental things that I always believe about testing is that testing below the interface, what data is being provided to your application, whether it be a mobile app or whatever, is absolutely critical. Yeah? So, finding a bug in the interface, on great many occasions over my career, it has been, early in my career anyway, it has been to do with the data that is being delivered. Yeah? So, root cause bugs in the way that data is delivered to your app are absolutely critical. And finding those, and you know, looking at your classic, you know, narrowing of tests towards the user interface is, you know, is an effective way to begin to look at strategy for testing mobile apps. So, number 7. So tools assist testing, they don't replace testing. Yeah, testing is done by people. There you go, I did it this time. I'm a great believer in that we should create tools which help people to test, rather than try and replace the testing that needs to be done. And again, the mobile world is an absolutely beautiful example of this. You've got a load of tools which are fairly young in their life cycle. So, I'm a member of the LinkedIn Appian group. Does anybody use Appian? Try to. So, you know, you get people on there saying, well, you know, I want to draw an S on the screen. Right? It's like, well, it's going to take you probably 3 weeks to automate that, and basically it'll work 1 time out of 10. So stop it, everyone. And that has been the same of check automation for like all time. Yeah. So again, it's kind of having that narrowing at the top of your test strategy to say, make sure that you have impactful, meaningful tests in the UI that you're willing to pay the price for, because you do pay the price. Once you've got a couple of thousand of Appian tests, basically you'll have to hire someone if you want to maintain them, and that's the way of life. So, tools should enhance information and effectiveness. So, I see loads and loads of testers testing mobile apps, and going through rigmarole to try and going onto different web interfaces to try and install them. Whereas simple tools like ADB, where you can push APKs onto devices, you can completely automate that process, clearing down data, stopping services. You can completely automate getting your device into a state that's ready to test, which, for me anyway, is far more valuable than writing an Appian test to draw an S on the screen. Unless that's the core thing that your app does. I'll give you that. But if that's the core thing that your app does, let me look at your business model. And again, this has always been true of testing. Naughty bugs, alright, logged in, bang, down it goes. I think in the mobile world this is beautifully framed, because basically, if that happens, you're pretty much a dead dog. And it's merciless, it really is. There are a whole load of app reviewers out there who are looking for this kind of stuff. and they have blogs, and you know they want to crucify. They absolutely do. So you know, in terms of in the past, perhaps you know bugs have been recoverable, but now you're a startup, you put an app out there, it goes bang when it goes, you know, out for the first time, you're dead in the water. So again, a nice prism for something that we hold to be true about testing, but it's probably magnified quite significantly by the way that the mobile world works. So I can't get through anything without mentioning the word context. Because Steve was talking about the context-driven school of testing, so I firmly subscribe to that. So if the problem isn't solved, the product doesn't work. Yeah? So if you apply your one-size-fits-all test strategy, you can still do all that testing, but you still won't know if the problem's solved. So you know, this is something that I hold absolutely to be true about testing, 100%. So you know, one strategy will not solve all problems. If you use a strategy to test an app, an API, a database, and you use the same one for each, fundamentally different worlds. And I think, you know, it's absolutely part of a tester's remit to be as bright and as forthright and as challenging as possible in order to test something in the right way. So, apocalypse not. Testing in a mobile context is ace. These are the things that, as testers, where this is what we want to get into. Yeah? Not something we want to run away from. Yeah? Might be a little bit behind the curve, and we keep doing that, but you know, I think it's something that we absolutely all should want to get into. So, questions or beer? Or both? So that's it, guys. So no questions about the core fundamentals of testing. Thank you, guys.
So a common source of debate is the balance between automation and manual testing.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on that? How do you think the move towards mobile shifts that?
So, I think all test approaches for a given problem need balance. Yeah. So, in terms of manual testing, the phrase just still sort of like rankles with me a little bit. But I know what you mean. Kind of that communicative, exploratory tester who goes and finds information, who creates like interesting sort of interesting error conditions and things like that. Plus, the core things that you want to take forward and check on a more regular basis. So, I think in the mobile context, it's like there's been some sort of foray into automation, but then a lot of people who I've talked to about it kind of come back out of it again and say, well, like Selenium was like a few years ago, it's not quite ready for it yet, and basically we're spending all our time maintaining it, whereas it might be cheaper just to let it like fall over every now and then, on the the non-core cases. So I'm pretty much there. I'm pretty much like, well, mobile at the moment, as the tool chain is very, very young, in terms of that communicative exploratory tester, that's the focus for me over the automation. But you can assist that. Like I said, say if you take a tool like ADB, you can batch things up. You can say, right, well, I need to stop this service. So rather than say, right, I'll go into the device, and I'll go into all the apps that are running and go and find the thing that I want in Android's 12 million list of all the things that are running on the device. You can just say, right, well, I know what the service is. Yeah, so I'll write a small bash or batch file just to stop it while I'm testing. Yeah. So basically, if you look at how you're doing it, and then you can find those relatively small enhancements, but they all add up and make a massive difference.
A couple of years ago, that same presentation, I think, could have been about the development tools for mobile.
Yeah.
Which have come absolute leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
Every 2 months there's like a new generation of development tools or new approaches. Do you think test tools are accelerating at the same rate or not?
No, I don't think so. I think they're trying to run before they can walk, to be brutally honest. And I think they're focusing on the wrong areas as well.
Yeah.
You know, desperately trying to fix or provide some kind of fix for the device fragmentation problem, as in, you know, here's a tool which can, you know, goes out a whole load of cloud instances which can then poke at devices, and it's like, you know, you're trying to solve a problem which is essentially unsolvable. So I think until the tool vendors kind of realise, you know, what the problems at the core of it are all about, then they're going to struggle, I think. And you know, people will still buy the tools because they want to, and they're still sold. So I think, but for me, it is like the tools are trying to solve the wrong problem. They're not trying to assist testing, they're trying to replace it.
So some more abstract, generic tools in the mobile space could actually be useful.
Yeah, I mean, so whenever I've tested, done sort of native app testing, I've just worked with the same tool chain as the developer. So if I'm working with an Android app, and then I'll install Android Studio, have the code locally and build it in different ways with different configs. So then I can control it. That control of, you know, the config and being able to install, uninstall, stop services, clear data is worth more to me than a test, an automated check. Which I'm going to stop saying it, but it draws an S on the screen. That was just my favourite. I was like, you're mad. I'm going to put the phone down and walk away from it now because I'm angry.
You mentioned dodgy tools.
Yeah. Don't make me name them.
Where do you stand on things like emulation hardware, so emulation of mobile devices?
So, I think it's certain jobs, it's absolutely fine. So, for example, at Fans, it was a very heavy media app. So, lots of video, lots of images, lots of using the camera. So, stuff like Genymotion, which is great for a lot of things, is not good for stuff like that. So it basically tries to tap your webcam, and it was just like, no bug was a real bug until you got it on a device. So again, it comes back to the context. But say if you're, I don't know, maybe if it's a gambling app where, you know, you're adding stuff to a bet slip and then you just find and forget HTTP request, then it's like, well, that'd probably be okay to do some testing on an emulator. I think personally it would do, it'd be faster. You'd probably get your feedback faster. So I think that'd be okay, but it totally depends what you do. Anything media heavy, real devices, across cameras and stuff, they'll absolutely trip you up.
This is one, and maybe not relevant to my current career, but how do you, because obviously this requires a lot of skill testing, and I make an assumption you're using, I'll down maybe for the questions. You're probably using Calabash, Cucumber, or some kind of nifty tools. You'll need someone to translate those into Ruby or some language. And more often than not, from my experience, that falls with the tester. Luckily, you can find testers that have these skills, but unluckily, the vast majority of us don't have those skills. Have you ever encompassed that, found that problem, and how you got around it? I know this is not directly.
No, absolutely. No, it's a valid question.
The detail is on the ground running. How do you make it work with the people you've got?
So, how do you make it work with the people you've got? So if you're on a development team, say there's X number of programmers, X number of testers, and then someone product team, then so who's the best to be writing code in that team? Yeah. So testers shouldn't be writing that much code. Not really. Should know how to do it probably. That's a total other debate. But essentially, so my approach in the past has been, I'll come up with like the ideas for a framework perhaps, and then I'll go, oh, you're really smart, do this. And I'll go, right then, I'll go back to whatever it is I do. But essentially, that would be kind of how I would approach it.
Yeah.
It's a slightly longer road.
Because
I
that's
would
why I
say.
asked the question, because a traditional tester from like the early 2000s or late 90s would have been okay with that kind of approach.
Yeah.
But I found in the last 3 or 4 years, the expectation is for dev and test to kind of blend into one engine.
Yeah.
It kind of propels this whole.
Yeah. So we're trying to like short circuit that by creating devs in test.
Yes, that's the new
I don't-
concept of learning.
I don't think what you just said is against what you're saying either. Just because they're not the same person doesn't mean they're not bridging the gap.
Yeah.
So I'm a dev manager, so I want my testers to come up with good tests,
Yeah.
but I don't want them to struggle writing the code.
So you expect your developers to go away and create the code based on that test? Is that where the communication stops, or do you then
I
expect
know that
the
my
testers to
testers,
understand that?
I know that my testers know the system a lot better than some of the devs.
Yeah.
So I want them to discuss what is important to be tested.
Yeah.
I don't want the testers to struggle writing code because we've got teams who
Good
are
answer to
programmers.
that.
I think the area that you just mentioned there, like behaviour-driven development,
Yes, yeah.
it's especially relevant where the developers can write the steps, but the testers define them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can also look at pair testing with the developer.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
good.
Perfect. So, yeah, that's kind of the way that I would approach. So basically, a team is hopefully a relatively autonomous unit that has all the skills that it needs to succeed. But that's often interpreted as, well, it needs a human that can do this and a human that can do that. And it's like, no, it doesn't necessarily need that. It needs all those skills to succeed. So there might be more than one person who can do more than one job. So, and kind of further to what Mark said as well, to write decent automation, you need to write good tests. You know? How much terrible automation have you seen in your career? That it constantly falls over and doesn't do anything. Yeah, yeah, precisely. So, you know, so basically, I would much rather see one meaningful test over 100 nonsensical checks, because those checks can be done elsewhere.
Did you ever figure out how to draw an X on the screen? Just hadn't looked at that.
No, I gave up after 4 weeks.
We were just like starting farming and enter plus anything involved with finger.
No. I think that LinkedIn debate went unanswered.
Same.
I might go and answer it tonight, but not with how to do it. Right. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your questions as well. Sorry for choking on beer. I'm a professional, really.
Thank you very much to both of our speakers this evening, and thank you very much, guys, for sticking to your time. I didn't have to use my special. Yeah, I didn't have to use my special 5-minute warning once.
Brilliant.
That's great.
Unplanned.
Thank you everyone for coming. Please help yourself to another drink, and if we go to the camp somewhere else, please just suggest it. Okay. Thanks very much.
Thanks, man. That was good. Enjoyed that.
All
right,
Yeah, cheers.
See you in a bit.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't have to call you out on the way out as well. And slow clap you out or something like that. You would have done. Yeah, I totally would have.
You're clearly gripped.
That's not bad.
Can you do me a favour? Check the fire exit is locked. Yeah, because Jill showed me how it worked and she's paranoid she left it open. Thank you.
In that instance, would you think using emulators would be better than investing in a load of mobile devices?
I would say you probably need to do both. You need to come up with a balanced strategy. But so the reality is, from experience, you see something in an emulator and then you put it on a real device, it's gone bang. Well, it's fine in, you know, like the Chrome development tools on Safari emulator or something. Oh, that's all absolutely fine. They're great up to a point. But it's just kind of that up to a point, you know. So, and I'm kind of getting more and more around to the belief that getting it on a real device as fast as you possibly can is probably the most effective way. Yeah. So again, it's like, how do you assist a mobile, someone who's testing on mobile? So you give them the ability to get really early builds of, you know, the app or the site or whatever onto their device. And that's how you that's how you make things a little bit smoother and a little bit faster, if you like. So,
Alright, excellent. Excellent, cheers.
it's good to see you, mate.
Yeah, good to see you too, man.
When you were 14, didn't you? But stopped doing it, don't we?
Yeah, I think we have to write
Yeah, make it interesting. Get it knowing. Yeah, one more strategies. Having a funny. Brilliant. Strategy. I think that's what we're looking at somewhere.
we went on to
Thank you for the lecture.
Good to see you, mate. Right, thanks you for that. Much appreciated.
Yeah, what stands out. You review it, obviously, you say the context of it, if that context shifts, things change, don't you? You don't write your test strategy. Like say halfway through, you start doing it on mobile.
Oh, right. Oh, I know. Castle.
Yeah.
Well, did you go through their graduate academy?
That's what I'm going through now.
They do it like a bit longer, don't they?
It's like every academy like every Friday.
Sound fun?
Yeah, no, it's really good. Mainly non-functional like Jamie. I've realised that even though I'm picking up a lot of testing skills, I'm not really picking up any sort of general experience. I'm going to like functional for a bit.
So I think there comes a time in your career where it's like you go back, tweet it at me, tweet it. Otherwise, if you go through your career, if you haven't like thought about that in your mind and decided like, what things you do at that time, and then question them, over and over again, as you go and do different things, as you will do, being successful, you'll go do this plan, that plan.
Yeah, exactly.
And they'll all be totally different. It really is. So it's like
that's part of the reason why I wanted to. I didn't want to. And I don't like, I've been told that in this kind of industry it's natural to change job like every 2 years, 3 years, but which is good, but I'm not sure I particularly want to do it that frequently.
No.
Because I think being at a place that does different projects, the way to sort of stay around
absolutely.
it
I
longer
mean,
before.
that's why I did. So I was here for 7 years, I think.
When?
But testing,
I've never heard of testing before.
No.
I'm quite new to testing, so I've had no reason to like explore that area, but yeah, quite hit me out of the way. I guess a lot of these things are like our office, no? If you knew, you wouldn't know where we're at. Yeah, Queen's.
Fairly anonymous.
Awesome, Paul.
Thanks, mate. Enjoyed that.
Great to see you doing what you do best.
Yeah.
Cheers, thank you.
So see you soon. Kind of the
We,
plan, just me and Ash, we scared everybody up.
Yeah, I think it will help. They're trying to keep some more of these, so it'd be good to actually reorganise
Yeah.
the office.
Well, I've made a career change so I can do more of this.
Oh, cool. So it's active.
So I can do more of this.
As a bit of
Got to do the workshop at Test Prices and
And also, we should point out, we should be pleased with the students that are supposed to do these things.
So you get to take all that out from the moment,
sign up for the architecture
If we're not going on to the start, there'll be one in my
workshop session. That's mine.
Ash is awesome. Yeah, we're very, very behind on testing. When I joined, we used to be zero testing in the company.
But we do try
20 developers. Like, okay,
Yeah,
so
I think
how are we doing stuff live then?
Yeah.
We
Just
do.
this.
Yeah. So we're getting there, and I'm kind of an ally to the test manager. No, I'm not going to be hard work. We're getting out of the slump, and we're getting into producing good quality software. But we're so much more we want to do.
Yeah.
It's just finding the kind of time.
So the way that I worked in the last, certainly in the last couple of years, then it was generally been, there's been few testers with high influence.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. So it's like getting around, you know, talking to devs while they're writing. Test on
All the testers are held in such high regard now, because
That's
they're
good.
absolute experts. That's what they are. They're
Yeah.
first off, they're experts in the system, and the devs are always asking questions. The testers work with the system every day, 24 hours a day.
You want to get that information out there, you know.
They're looking at a bit of code. Testers are the ones using the system.
So you want to get that information out. It's like, well, Callcredit, it's like 3 years. So if you change that will go back.
Yeah.
Right? And they're like, no, it won't. Totally will.
Yeah.
Totally will.
Watch it. Yeah. You haven't got any tests.
First test.
I'm looking at
There you go.
Yeah, we know it will because and we know you haven't got any tests because you keep doing it. Every release you've done.
So, but the trick is to get the testers to say that before the development begins,
Yeah.
rather than saying, oh look, it's gone bang. I knew that would go bang. I'm so pleased.
And we're just getting to the point where the devs are writing, you know, quite involved integration tests from start to end. That's really good, but only if you test the right things.
Yeah, exactly.
So then you want the tester to go, these are probably the things you should test.
Yeah.
This happy path is great.
Yeah.
But what happens when this happens? And what happens when that happens? Or what happens when you start at this stage? Boom, boom, boom. That's what's important. That's why you need the testers. You don't need the testers. Trying to maintain the bad code. Try to maintain you're not. You want to be a programmer, learn to be a programmer, and then write some code. But don't try and write automation code, which is difficult for like the best programmers. It's a classic. It's just a classic reference. So like that, ask that question. Like,
nice to meet you.
well, testers trying to write code from Hello World to automation testing in a week.
Hello World's a framework in a week.
Yeah.
Are you taking it with you?
Oh yeah.
Brilliant.
It's going to go on my desk at work.
Yeah. It's on SlideShare if you want more copies or less crumpled copies.
Excellent.
It shows
And
experience.
please get rid of the use of that. Please just delete that.
Okay.
Because that's where I work. So just do
Oh,
that.
right,
I'm
okay.
sure
Don't mean to,
I have a version of it which doesn't have that.
We
I'm
can
meant to
just
print
put a
that.
post-it note over.
Yeah, I won't do
And I'll tell
that.
you-
Just put your company phone.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I want to time share in this.
Yeah, do you want me to rub it out?
No, that's not okay.
You didn't win, did you? For a single picture.
didn't draw any pictures.
I saw. I drew pictures, so I get a time share.
I thought it would be difficult because I remember when I went to lectures and speeches, I feel really bad when I've got my head down
Yeah.
because I don't feel like, one, I'm engaging, or two, really listening to everything and listening to all the communication. So I was nervous when you asked to try it out because I thought I wouldn't gain all the benefit of listening to it. But actually it was fine because I can do two things at once.
Yeah, some other people have said that.
I totally do that because to listen, I just go around and doodle. And people lean over my shoulder and go, oh, I thought you were taking notes. No, it helps me listen.
Yeah.
Helps me.
And when he said that you don't need to capture everything, you can always come back at it.
So I really enjoyed that.
I quite like it.
That's not pretty relaxed.
I can talk as well.
I know you said you were going to do the axioms, but it was just classic, wasn't it? Brilliant. Testing scheme and oracles. Brilliant.
What's the name of it?
It's a book,
yeah.
Nobby books. That's more now than more in the mobile context. Yeah, loved it.
I've got to start saying people, not humans. So I'm differentiating myself.
You know, management meetings, first management meeting, I referred to pens. I was like, as in not in pens, as in like.
Oh,
Holding
closures.
And everyone just looked at me and went, did you just say pens, like old
Like humans in pens.
I hate the word resource now.
Yeah.
Like, all my senior
Yeah.
managers cannot use
Yeah,
resource.
we've
and
got
then I'm
that.
talking about people's animals.
We've got your resources thing at the minute.
So
I saw
demoralising.
I saw a great tweet about it, and it was a picture of a stone, like a pile of stone, and then a person stood next to it, and there was an arrow which said resources, and then an arrow which said person.
It is horrific. Right then, we're off.
Yeah. Go on then.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys. Well done with your
Bye.
prize.
Right. Have fun, guys. Friends of Ham.
Yeah.